expands to a considerable extent. That means that water in its solid state is less dense than water in liquid form. In other words, according to the laws of physics, ice should have been heavier than water, but it is actually lighter. This amazing state of affairs has a very important result. Ice floats on water. This, in turn, has its own important consequences. Winter temperatures drop below zero in many parts of the world. This naturally affects the seas and lakes. Water freezes when it reaches 0 degrees Celsius. But this freezing only happens on the surface. A 4 degrees Celsius layer of water beneath the surface is enough to keep fish and other creatures that live in the water alive. Ice transmits very little of the cold in the air to the layer underneath it. Thus, even if the air temperature falls to as low as -50 degrees Celsius, the ice layer on the surface of the sea goes down no more than 1 or 2 meters. Seals, bears, and other polar animals are thus able to make holes in the ice and reach the open sea. What would happen if this was not the case and ice sank to the bottom? In that case, the oceans, the seas, and the lakes would begin freezing from the bottom up. Since there would be no layer of ice to keep out the cold from above, freezing would continue upwards. Many of the lakes, seas, and oceans on Earth would, therefore, turn into solid blocks of ice. All that would be left would be a layer of water just a few meters thick on the surface. And even if air temperatures rose, the ice at the bottom would never melt. Nothing could, therefore, live in the Earth's seas. The absence of life in the seas would affect the balances in the world, and life on land would also be impossible. If water behaved like other liquids, the Earth would be a dead planet. But thankfully it doesn't. The fact is that thanks to God's might and flawless creation, our Earth is a planet filled with life. Other properties of water also play an important role in the Earth having a moderate and balanced climate. Thanks to the molecular properties of water, the seas heat up and cool down much slower than the land. This means that on land there can be a temperature difference of up to 140 degrees between the hottest places and the coldest, while the temperature difference in the sea ranges at most from 15 to 20 degrees Celsius. The same thing applies to the temperature difference between day and night. The difference between day and night can be as high as 20 to 30 degrees in dry climates, while it is no more than a few degrees in the sea. Thanks to the thermal characteristics of water, the difference in temperature between winter and summer, or day and night, remains within limits that all life forms can tolerate. If the proportion of the Earth that is covered in water compared to that covered in land were less, then the temperature difference between night and day would increase enormously. Much of the land would turn into desert, and life would become impossible. Water is obviously very important for life. In the Quran, God reveals that He has given us water as a blessing. We sent down a measured amount of water from heaven and lodged it firmly in the earth. And we are well able to remove it. By means of it we produce gardens of dates and grapes for you, in which there are many fruits for you, and from which you eat. Let us reflect once more. The blessings we have seen in this film are just a very few of all those God has given us. Everything we can think of and benefit from is a blessing created for us by God. Means of transport is an example. We can go wherever we want by getting into a car or bus. Our clothes protect us against the heat in the summer and against the cold in the winter. There is no end to the list of blessings God bestows on us. Indeed, God tells us in the Quran that this list is endless. He has given you everything you have asked Him for. If you tried to number God's blessings, you could never count them. We must therefore always bear these blessings in mind and give thanks to God for bestowing them on us.